Hello, everyone. My name is Emma Stenning, and I'm the Executive Director of Soulpepper Theatre Company. It is my great pleasure to introduce Miriam Fernandes, the Director of Hayavadana, which takes us to India on our Around the World in 80 Plays adventure. Hello, Miriam.
Hi.
Hi. So, to start off with, I was so pleased that I got to talk to you about this play because when we were on the long search for the 8 plays that would receive full production from Soulpepper for this project, Hayavadana was actually one of the plays that fell into my reading list. And there was a lot of dialogue, a lot of intense searching for the right play for the India leg of our journey. So why did you choose this one? What's special about this play?
We talked about doing Mahabharata, but that felt like it would be like an 18-day audio play. And so what was part of still the spirit of Mahabharata that I think Hayavadana captures is touching base with these ancient myths that are thousands of years old in India. And what I think is so exciting about Hayavadana is that it's taking this ancient myth, but Girish Karnad, who's the playwright, wraps it up into an incredibly, I think, contemporary and hilarious story that integrates all of these things that I love about Mahabharata and Indian and traditional Indian theater. And it's like a meeting of East and West and ancient and contemporary in this play. And I just found it's so accessible. It's so funny. It's so irreverent. It's like all the things that we don't think of when we think of ancient Indian theater.
Yeah, one of the reasons that I thought we got to go for this is because it's so, without giving the game away to people that might not have listened to it yet, but it's pretty fantastical in its storytelling. And I thought, well, goodness, I wouldn't like to be sat in a creative team meeting thinking about how to deliver this on stage. But actually, when we're in an audio world, and actually, your imagination can go anywhere, that's a real gift, I thought. So did that feature in your decision making as well? Thinking of something for the audio medium?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I love that word fantastical because for me, that's like myths open up impossibility and magic in our lives. And these myths, which in Hayavadana, there is a kind of fantastical creature, a horse. Hayavadana means horse face. And so it's a man with a horse's head and the body of a man, and he's searching for completeness, like many of the other characters in the play. And the kind of you could call it magical realism, you could call it fantasy, fantasticalness. That was something that I was missing in COVID and is just so delicious in this play to engage with and for an audience to get to imagine.
Could you tell us a bit about this piece's cultural aesthetic? So do you see the piece as having a specific cultural home, or is it more universal than that?
I think the story is very universal. It's a story about identity. It's a story about a search for completeness in a number of different characters and a desire to feel whole. And I think I know that feeling and the desire for that and kind of the impossibility of that. And then at the same time, it's weaving in all of these traditions of ancient Indian theater. So there's a storyteller, there are musicians, there's a classical singer who's taking us on this journey that's really weaving together all of these different forms of art, which is text, music, drumming, singing, actors acting different parts out, a fantastical creature. So it's weaving together all of these worlds. But to me, it still feels very universal and accessible in a way that I feel is surprising. I'm curious to your perspective too.
It is universal. I mean, you're right. It is a story about, as you put it, a powerful, feisty woman trying to figure out what she wants. So tell us a bit more about the artists in your ensemble.
It's a really amazing ensemble of all South Asian diaspora performers. So people whose family is from that part of the world, what we call India, Pakistan, Bangladesh now, but really has family who's been living in South Africa and the West Indies and all over the place. So it was exciting to have a completely South Asian ensemble. And then for a lot of us too, who grew up in the West, pronunciation, like we're not used to saying these words and these names. So Sharda Eswar, who is the singer in the piece, who you'll hear, was also an artistic collaborator for me. And she kind of helped dramaturg the songs. She helped us with pronunciation. And Sharda actually worked with Girish Karnad to, she assisted him on a production of this show. Yeah.
Oh, wow, great.
So it was great to have her voice and her stories in the room too. Yeah.
And how did you find the process? I don't know if you're, have you directed audio before? Was this the first time?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then of course, I mean, you weren't even in the same room as the ensemble, right? I mean, they're all in their own homes. How did you find that? Because this is actually quite an ensemble piece, isn't it? That's really, and I imagine if you were in a rehearsal room, you'd be doing all sorts of things to build a kind of ensemble dynamic. And how did you approach that when you've got your company all in their own homes, you know?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I think because originally we thought we would record in person. So I was like, oh, okay, we'll be able to be together. We'll see each other. We'll physicalize things. And then another round of COVID hit and we're going to record in everybody's houses. Mm. To me, one thing that I was thinking about a lot was the body and the importance of the body in storytelling. My work is, I went to a physical theater school in France. For me, the body is such an important source of storytelling and is a really important source of how our voice works too. Yeah. And so getting the actors to engage physically became really important. Yeah, and we didn't have like a million years to think it over. So
no, it was a quick process.
Yeah,
I'd forgotten that you were look-up trained. Actually, that's even more odd, I suppose, to come into a space where you can't connect with people physically.
You know what was really an interesting discovery for me was realizing that usually I'm thinking about my body and I'm looking at pictures on stage to create dynamics. Yes. And in this audio world, I was like, okay, what are the tools that I have to create dynamics now are sound and distance and like tension in voices. And so it's like the principles are still there, but the palette is different. It's like we're working in watercolors as opposed to acrylics.
I love the fact that actually there'll be hundreds of different visual readings of this world, like each created by the listener. I think that's just really beautiful.
I absolutely. It's like reading a book. Like if you read the same book as me, we're going to have completely different journeys of that book.
Yeah. Yes. Well, my last question before we wrap up is really, what do you hope that listeners will take away from spending a few hours with this play?
What I think is so exciting about 80 Plays is that you get to go on a journey to all of these different places and hear stories that you might never have heard or encountered. Mm-hmm. And I think what I hope that people take away from this is a journey to a poetic, magical place that maybe takes you out of the mundaneness of what feels like the everyday of these four walls that I feel like I'm living in, and get the experience that you get when you go to a theater where you get to you get to suspend your imagination and be somewhere else. Your head and your heart get to go on a journey, and I hope Hayavadana brings that to you.
Oh, I'm sure it will. I know it will. Well, thank you so much, Miriam, for joining me for this conversation about Hayavadana. To hear the production of Hayavadana and for more information about the rest of the Around the World in 80 Plays series, scroll through our website, soulpepper.ca, and be sure to tune in to Ideas on CBC Radio to hear a companion documentary that further explores the cultural and historical context for this play. That's it from us, so goodbye from me.
Bye. Thanks, Emma.